The stars looked cold and distant through the bridge windows of the USS Reckless. Captain Danny Vance stood with his hands behind his back, watching the darkness of space stretch out before him. Somewhere in that darkness, people were dying. He could feel it in his bones. "Sir, we're receiving the distress signal again," said Lieutenant Tony Morales from his station. His voice was tight with urgency. "Colony World Kepler-7, population of 40,000. They say the Vreth have surrounded them." Danny nodded slowly. He knew about the Vreth. Every human who traveled the stars knew about them. They were a cruel species who enjoyed making other beings suffer. They followed every rule of the Galactic Concordance perfectly, yet somehow they always found ways to hurt the weak and the helpless. "How long until we arrive?" Danny asked. 18 minutes at current speed," replied Lisa Hartley, the ship's chief engineer. She was standing near the reactor controls, her eyes fixed on the power readings. "I can push us faster if you need it." "Do it." The USS Reckless was not like other ships. It was 4 kilometers long when the Concordance laws said no ship could be longer than 2. It carried weapons that alien scanners could not even identify. Its armor was made of something Lisa called angry metal, because it seemed to fight back against anything that tried to hurt it. By every measure of galactic law, this ship should not exist. But humans had never signed the Concordance Treaty, and humans had very good reasons for building the Reckless. The ship jumped forward as Lisa increased power. Danny felt the slight vibration under his feet and allowed himself a small smile. His crew was the best in the fleet. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might never see Earth again. Every single one of them understood what was at stake. 80 minutes passed quickly. When the Reckless dropped out of faster-than-light travel, they found exactly what they expected. A fleet of Vreth warships surrounded the small blue planet below. Transport ships were already descending toward the surface, carrying soldiers who would round up the colonists and take them away to lives of slavery. "Counting 47 Vreth vessels," Tony reported. "Their flagship is the big one in the center. Scans show it's the Pride of Vreth, commanded by Admiral Crix himself." Danny knew that name too. Admiral Crix was famous throughout the galaxy. He had conquered 12 worlds and enslaved millions of beings. He was considered a hero among his people. Today, his legend would end. "Open a channel to the colony," Danny ordered. "Tell them help has arrived." The communication officer, a young woman named Amy Chen, worked her controls. "Channel open, sir. Kepler-7 colony. This is Captain Danny Vance of the USS Reckless. We are here to assist you. Please remain calm and stay away from the landing zones. We will handle the Vreth." The response came immediately. A man's voice, shaking with fear and hope. "Reckless, this is Governor Pete Miller. Thank God you're here. They said they're going to take our children first. Please, you have to stop them." Danny's jaw tightened. "We will, Governor. You have my word." He cut the channel and turned to face his bridge crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for orders. These were good people. Brave people. They deserved a captain who would not let them down. "The Vreth are going to contact us any moment now," Danny said calmly. "When they do, they're going to threaten us with concordance law. They're going to tell us we're criminals. They're going to demand we surrender." He paused. "We're not going to do that." As if on cue, the main screen flickered to life. The face that appeared was not human. Admiral Crix was tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 eyes that gleamed with cold intelligence. His mouth was filled with small, sharp teeth, and when he spoke, his voice was like metal scraping against stone. "Human vessel," Crix said. "You are in violation of 17 concordance statutes. Your ship exceeds maximum permitted length. Your weapons register as illegal on our scanners. Your very presence here is a crime against galactic law." He leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Stand down immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Resist, and you will face the judgment of the Concordance." Danny looked at the alien admiral for a long moment. Then he smiled. "We didn't sign your treaty." Crix blinked all 4 eyes at once. "What? Earth never signed the Concordance Agreement. We're not bound by your rules. We're not criminals under your law. We're just humans doing what humans do. And what is that?" Crix demanded. "Protecting the innocent from beings like you." The Admiral's face twisted with rage. "You dare? You primitive species, you dare to challenge the Concordance? We have ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years. We have crushed every rebellion, destroyed every threat. You are nothing but insects to us." Danny shrugged. "Then you should have no trouble swatting us down. Go ahead, try." Crix screamed an order in his own language. The channel cut off. On the tactical display, Tony watched the Vreth fleet begin to move. "They're targeting us, Captain. All 47 ships. They're charging weapons." Lisa looked up from her station. "Reactor is stable. Armor is active. We're ready. All hands brace for impact," Danny announced over the ship's speakers. Then, quieter to his bridge crew, "Let's see what they've got." The Vreth opened fire. The space around the Reckless exploded with light. Plasma bolts, missile swarms, energy beams, every weapon in the Vreth arsenal was unleashed at once. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. It was the most devastating attack the Vreth had ever launched. Against a single target, the Reckless didn't even shake. On the bridge, Danny watched the damage report scroll across his screen. 0 hull breaches. 0 system failures. The angry metal was doing its job, absorbing and dispersing the enemy fire like it was nothing more than rain. "Their weapons are at maximum power," Tony said, amazement clear in his voice. "This is everything they have. Everything legal under Concordance law. And it's not enough," Lisa added with a grim smile. "It's not even close." Danny let the Vreth fire for another 30 seconds. He wanted them to understand. He wanted them to feel what it was like to be helpless, to throw everything they had at an enemy and watch it fail. Then he gave the order. "Return fire. 1% power." Tony pressed a single button. The Pride of Vreth, flagship of Admiral Crix, the most decorated warship in the Vreth fleet, vanished in a flash of white light. There was no explosion, no debris, no wreckage. The ship simply ceased to exist. Silence fell over the bridge of the Reckless. Silence fell over the colony below. Silence fell over the remaining 46 Vreth ships, whose crews had just watched their mighty flagship disappear like a candle flame in a hurricane. Danny opened a channel to the Vreth fleet. "That was 1%, he said quietly. "Leave now, and you live. Stay, and you join your admiral. You have 60 seconds to decide." It took them only 10 seconds to begin their retreat. As the Vreth ships fled into the darkness, Danny allowed himself to breathe. The colonists were safe. The children would not be taken. Today, at least, the good guys had won. But he knew this was only the beginning. Word of what happened here would spread across the galaxy. The Concordance would respond. And humanity would have to be ready. He turned to his crew. "Well done, everyone. Set a course for the colony. Let's go tell those people they're safe." The USS Reckless moved forward, and the stars no longer looked cold. They looked like possibilities. 3 years before the USS Reckless saved the colony at Kepler 7, a different kind of battle was being fought beneath the Nevada desert. Commander Sam Ortega walked through the underground facility with heavy steps. The corridors were long and white, lit by harsh lights that never turned off. Everything down here was secret. Everything down here could change the future of humanity. He stopped at a heavy metal door. and pressed his hand against the scanner. The lock clicked open, and he stepped inside. The room was filled with screens and computers. In the center stood a woman with short brown hair and tired eyes. Dr. Megan Price had not slept in 3 days, but she was smiling. That smile made Sam nervous. "You found something," he said. It was not a question. Megan turned to face him. "I found everything, Sam. Everything we were afraid of and more." She pressed a button, and the main screen came to life. It showed a document written in an alien language, with English translations running alongside it. "This is from the Concordance archives. We intercepted it 6 months ago, but it took this long to decode." Megan's voice was steady, but Sam could hear the anger underneath. "It's a population assessment report. Every species in the galaxy gets one." Sam looked at the screen. He saw numbers, charts, and graphs. He saw projections and recommendations. And at the bottom, he saw a single word that made his blood run cold. "Elimination," he read aloud. "That's their solution for any species that might become a threat," Megan said. "They've done it 47 times in the last 10,000 years. They find a young civilization, they watch it grow, and when it reaches a certain point, they destroy it. Every single time." Sam felt sick. "And Earth?" Megan pulled up another document. "We're scheduled for assessment in 50 years. Based on our current rate of technological growth, the recommendation will be elimination. They think we're too aggressive, too creative, too dangerous to let live." The room felt smaller suddenly. Sam had spent his entire career in the military, fighting enemies he could see and understand. But this was different. This was a death sentence written by beings who lived among the stars, who had watched humanity from afar and decided they were too much trouble to keep alive. "Does anyone else know?" he asked. "Admiral Lawson knows. He's the one who ordered me to decode the files." Megan turned off the screen. "He wants to see us both. Right now." They found Admiral Chris Lawson in his office, a small room with no windows and no decorations. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too much. When Sam and Megan entered, he was staring at a photograph on his desk. It showed a young boy, maybe 8 years old, smiling at the camera. "My grandson," Lawson said without looking up. "He wants to be an astronaut when he grows up. He wants to see the stars." He finally raised his eyes to meet theirs. "In 50 years, if we do nothing, there won't be any stars for him to see. There won't be any Earth. There won't be any humans at all." Sam stood at attention. "What are your orders, sir?" Lawson stood up slowly. "I spent the last month reading everything we have on the Concordance. Their laws, their history, their military capabilities." He walked to a wall and pressed a hidden button. The wall slid open, revealing another room behind it. Inside was a hologram of a ship. It was massive, beautiful, and completely impossible. "The Concordance has rules about everything," Lawson continued. "Maximum ship size, maximum weapon power, maximum armor thickness. For 12,000 years, every species has followed these rules. Do you know why?" Megan stepped forward, her eyes fixed on the hologram. "Because they were told the rules exist to keep peace. That's what they say. But it's a lie." Lawson pointed at the ship. Dr. Price discovered something else in those files. The rules don't exist to keep peace. They exist to keep the Concordance in power. Any species that follows the rules can never become strong enough to challenge them. Sam understood now. "So we break the rules. We shatter them." Lawson's voice was hard as steel. "We build a ship that violates every restriction they've ever created. We make weapons they've told the galaxy are impossible. We show them that their rules mean nothing." Megan was already studying the hologram, her scientific mind racing. "The Class 7 weapon limit. They say anything above Class 10 destabilizes space itself. But that's not true, is it? It's completely false, Lawson confirmed. Our tests show that Class 15 weapons work perfectly. The Concordance lied to keep everyone weak. They made the galaxy believe that real power was impossible. He smiled grimly. They never counted on humans being stubborn enough to test their lies. Over the next 3 years, the secret facility beneath Nevada became the birthplace of humanity's rebellion. Sam Ortega led the construction teams, working day and night to build something that had never existed before. Dr. Megan Price developed the weapon systems, creating devices that broke every law the Concordance had established. Admiral Lawson coordinated everything from the shadows, keeping their work hidden from alien eyes. They called the ship the Reckless because that's what building it was. Reckless and necessary. The hardest part was finding a crew. They needed people who understood the mission. People who knew they might never come home. People who were willing to break the rules of the galaxy to save their species. Danny Vance was a naval commander who had lost his entire family to a Vreth raid on a human colony. Lisa Hartley was an engineer who had been told her ideas were too dangerous, too extreme, too impossible. Tony Morales was a tactical genius who had been passed over for promotion because he questioned authority. One by one, they gathered a crew of misfits and dreamers. People who refused to accept that the game was rigged against them. On the day of the launch, they gathered on the dark side of the moon in a shipyard that no alien satellite could see. The USS Reckless floated before them, 4 kilometers of steel and defiance. Admiral Lawson stood before the crew. 200 men and women who had volunteered for what might be a suicide mission. In a few hours you will leave this system, he said. You will fly into a galaxy that wants to destroy us. You will face enemies who have ruled the stars for longer than humanity has existed. And you will show them what happens when they try to cage a species that was born to be free. He paused, looking at each face in turn. The Concordance believes they've seen everything. They believe they understand every threat. They've never met humans before. A fierce pride entered his voice. They're about to learn their biggest mistake. Danny Vance stepped forward and saluted. We won't let you down, sir. I know you won't, Captain. Lawson returned the salute. Now go out there and break every rule they've got. The crew boarded the Reckless. The engines powered up. The shipyard doors opened to reveal the endless darkness of Space-Dot as the ship moved forward. Dr. Megan Price stood at a window in the underground facility back on Earth. She watched the sky, knowing she couldn't see the launch but hoping anyway. Good luck, she whispered to the stars. Come back safe. All of you. In the command chair of the Reckless, Danny Vance gave his first order. Set course for the edge of human space. Let's go introduce ourselves to the neighborhood. The ship jumped forward, leaving the moon and Earth behind. Ahead of them lay a galaxy that didn't know they were coming. Behind them lay a world worth fighting for. The rules were about to change. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. A human ship had destroyed the pride of Vreth. A human ship had broken 17 Concordance laws and faced no punishment. A human ship had done the impossible. On 1,000 worlds, beings of every species watched the footage. They saw the Vreth fleet fire everything they had at the strange vessel. They saw the weapons splash harmlessly against its hull. They saw the flagship vanish in a single flash of light. And they asked themselves a question that had not been asked in 12,000 years. What if the rules were wrong? Ambassador Kate Sullivan did not have time to think about such questions. She was too busy preparing for the most important meeting in human history. The shuttle that carried her was small and uncomfortable. It had taken 3 weeks to reach the Concordance capital world, a planet called First Home that orbited a dying red star. The world itself was ancient, its cities built on top of older cities that were built on top of even older ruins. The Concordance had ruled from here since before humans learned to make fire. "We're beginning our descent," the pilot announced. Kate looked out the window. Below her, the planet stretched in shades of brown and gold. There were no oceans, no forests, no green fields. First Home had been stripped of its natural resources long ago. What remained was a monument to power and age. A Concordance escort ship flew beside them, its weapons clearly visible. It was a reminder that Kate was not a guest here. She was a prisoner who had been allowed to speak before her execution. The shuttle landed in a courtyard made of black stone. Soldiers in silver armor stood in perfect lines, watching as the humans emerged. Kate walked between them with her head held high. She would not show fear. She would not give them that satisfaction. The Chamber of Laws was the largest building Kate had ever seen. Its doors were 20 meters tall, carved with images of the Concordance's founding species. Inside, the ceiling disappeared into darkness, and the walls were lined with records of every judgment ever made. At the far end of the chamber sat the High Council. There were 12 of them, each representing one of the founding species. They sat on thrones made of different materials: stone, metal, crystal, and things Kate could not identify. In the center, on a throne that seemed to be made of living shadow, sat the Arbiter. Kate had read about the Arbiter's species. They had no name that humans could pronounce. They communicated through a combination of sound and light, and their bodies shifted constantly, never holding the same shape for more than a few seconds. They were the oldest species in the Concordance, and they had led it since the beginning. "Human," the Arbiter said. Its voice came from everywhere at once. "You stand before the Chamber of Laws. Your species has committed crimes against the Galactic Order. Speak now and explain your actions." Kate took a deep breath. She had prepared for this moment. She had practiced her words 100 times. But standing here, in this ancient room, facing beings who had ruled the stars since before her ancestors lived in caves, she felt very small. Then she remembered the colony at Kepler 7. She remembered the children who would have been taken. She remembered that somewhere out there, the USS Reckless was waiting, ready to fight. She was not small. She was human, and humans did not bow. "Honored members of the Council," Kate began, "I understand why you're angry. We broke your rules. We built a ship that should not exist. We destroyed vessels belonging to a Concordance member species." She paused. "But before you judge us, I want you to understand why." The Arbiter shifted, its form becoming darker. "The reasons do not matter. The law is the law." "Your law," Kate replied. "Not ours. We never signed your treaty. We never agreed to your restrictions. You cannot hold us to rules we never accepted." A murmur ran through the council. This was not how younger species usually spoke. Kate continued before they could interrupt. "But that's just a legal argument, and I know it won't convince you. So let me tell you what really happened." She pulled a small device from her pocket. It projected a hologram in the center of the chamber, showing a document covered in alien writing. "This is from your own archives. It's a population assessment report. It shows that any species that might become a threat to the Concordance is scheduled for elimination." Kate's voice grew harder. "Earth's assessment is in 50 years. You were going to destroy us. Every man, woman, and child. 8 billion lives erased because you were afraid of what we might become." The council members looked at each other. Some seemed uncomfortable. Others seemed angry. The Arbiter remained still. "We found your secret," Kate said. "We learned the truth about your rules. They don't exist to keep peace. They exist to keep you in power. Any species that follows them can never grow strong enough to challenge you. And any species that might break them is destroyed before it gets the chance." She turned off the hologram. So yes, we broke your rules. We built the Reckless. We armed it with weapons you said were impossible. And we did it because you gave us no other choice. It was either break your rules or wait for you to kill us. The chamber fell silent. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the Arbiter rose from its throne. Its form grew larger, darker, more threatening. Human ambassador, it said, you speak of things you do not understand. The rules exist for reasons beyond your knowledge. They have protected this galaxy for 12,000 years. Protected it from what? Kate asked. The Arbiter did not answer that question. Instead, it raised one shifting limb and pointed at her. The Council has heard enough. Humanity is offered one chance to avoid destruction. You will surrender the vessel called Reckless. You will submit to technological regression. You will accept protected status under Concordance supervision. If you refuse, the combined fleets of the Concordance will be sent to Earth. Your planet will be burned. Your species will end. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Kate looked at the Arbiter. She looked at the Council members, some of whom would not meet her eyes. She looked at the soldiers lining the walls, ready to kill her at a single command. Then she smiled. You made rules to keep yourselves safe from the next generation. You called it peace. We call it a protection racket. She straightened her shoulders. And we don't pay protection. The Arbiter's form flickered with what might have been rage. Then you have chosen death. We've chosen to live on our feet instead of dying on our knees. Kate turned to leave. I'll deliver your message to Earth, but I want you to deliver one to your fleets. She stopped at the door and looked back at the ancient beings who thought they ruled the galaxy. The Reckless is coming, and we're not alone. At that moment, on the other side of the galaxy, Captain Danny Vance received the news. The Concordance had refused to negotiate. 17 enforcement fleets were gathering at the border, the largest military force assembled in 3,000 years. Tony Morales ran the numbers on his screen. 5,000 ships, Captain. We're outnumbered 5,000 to 1. Danny looked at his crew. They were tired, scared, and far from home. But they were also determined. They had not come this far to give up now. They have numbers, he said. They have experience. They have the entire weight of galactic law on their side. He paused, and a fierce light entered his eyes. We have something better. We have the stubborn refusal to accept that the game was rigged from the start. Lisa Harkley stepped forward. The ship is ready, Captain. The weapons are charged. The armor is active. She grinned. Let's show them what impossible looks like. Danny nodded and gave the order that would change history. Set course for the border. We're going to meet them head on. The Reckless turned toward the darkness where 5,000 enemy ships waited. Behind them, the stars of human space glittered with hope. The final battle was about to begin. The border of Concordance space was marked by a line of ancient beacons, each one broadcasting a simple message: turn back or face the consequences. For 12,000 years, no species had crossed that line without permission. Today, a single human ship was about to change that. Captain Danny Vance stood on the bridge of the Reckless, watching the tactical display. The enemy fleet filled the screen like a swarm of angry insects. 5,000 ships arranged in perfect formation, their weapons already powered and ready to fire. They're hailing us. Captain, said Amy Chun from the communications station. Put them through. The main screen flickered and a face appeared. It was not the Arbiter, but a military commander from one of the founding species. He looked old and tired, like a soldier who had fought too many wars. Human vessel, the commander said. I am Fleet Admiral Torvas, commander of the Concordance Enforcement Armada. You have one final chance to surrender. If you do not, we will destroy you. There will be no mercy. Danny studied the alien's face. He saw duty there and determination, but also something else. Something that looked almost like doubt. "Admiral Voss," Danny replied calmly, "I appreciate the warning. But I have to ask you something first. Do you know why the rules exist? The real reason?" The Admiral's eyes narrowed. "The rules exist to maintain order, to prevent chaos. That's what they told you. But it's not the truth." Danny leaned forward. "The truth is that the rules exist to keep species like yours under control, to make sure no one ever becomes strong enough to challenge the Concordance founders. You follow the rules, and you think it makes you safe. But all it really does is keep you weak." Admiral Voss was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. "Even if what you say is true, it changes nothing. I have my orders. I will carry them out." "I understand," Danny said. "I'm a military man, too. I know what it means to follow orders." He paused. "But I also know what it means to fight for something that matters. And today, I'm fighting for the right of every species to grow, to change, to reach its full potential without being crushed by someone else's fear." He stood up straight and addressed not just the Admiral, but every ship in the enemy fleet. "This is Captain Danny Vance of the USS Reckless. We do not want war. We do not want destruction. But we will not surrender. We will not submit. If you force us to fight, we will fight. And we will win." He took a breath. "But we would rather find another way. The choice is yours." The channel closed. The enemy fleet began to move. "They're not backing down," Tony Morales reported. "All ships are advancing. Weapons are charging." Danny nodded. He had expected this. He had hoped for something different, but he had expected this. "All hands, battle stations. Lisa, how are we looking?" Lisa Hartley checked her readings. "Reactor is at full power. Armor is active. Weapons are charged." She looked up with fierce eyes. "We're ready, Captain. Then let's begin." The Battle of the Boundary Line started with fire. The Concordant fleet launched everything they had in the first wave. 10,000 missiles streaked through space, followed by energy beams and plasma bolts from thousands of ships. It was the most devastating attack in galactic history, enough firepower to crack a small planet. Chief Petty Officer Ryan Delgado sat at the point defense station, watching his screens with calm focus. The missiles were coming fast, but he had trained for this moment his entire career. "Point defense active," he announced. "Engaging targets." The Reckless came alive with light. Defensive weapons fired in precise patterns, destroying missiles by the hundreds. The ship's armor absorbed the energy weapons, spreading the damage across its surface like ripples in water. "Hull integrity at 99%, Lisa reported. "Their weapons are barely scratching us." But the enemy kept coming. More missiles, more beams, more ships pushing forward, determined to overwhelm the lone human vessel through sheer numbers. Danny watched the battle unfold on the tactical display. The Concordance strategy was simple: throw everything at the target until something got through. It had worked for 12,000 years. It was not going to work today. "Tony, begin offensive operations. Start with the forward elements. 10% power." Tony's fingers danced across his console. Targeting lead ships, firing. The weapons of the Reckless were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They did not fire beams or missiles. They fired something else entirely, something that bent space itself. When the shots hit their targets, the enemy ships simply came apart. Their hulls torn into pieces by forces they could not understand. In the first 60 seconds, 200 Concordant ships were destroyed. Panic began to spread through the enemy fleet. These were warriors who had never faced true opposition. Their weapons were the best that Concordance law allowed, but they were nothing compared to what the humans had built. "They're trying to regroup," Tony said. "Admiral Voss is pulling his ships back into a defensive formation." "Don't let them," Danny ordered. "Keep the pressure on. But target their weapons and engines, not their bridges. I want them disabled, not destroyed." Lisa looked at him with surprise. "Captain? We're not like them," Danny said quietly. "We don't kill when we don't have to. We prove we're better by being better." The battle continued, but its nature changed. Instead of destroying enemy ships, the Reckless began to cripple them. Engines were knocked out. Weapons were disabled. Ship after ship drifted helplessly in space, their crews alive but unable to fight. The Concordance fleet, which had never faced an enemy they could not defeat, began to fall apart. Some ships tried to flee. Others surrendered. A few kept fighting, but they were quickly disabled. After 3 hours, it was over. Admiral Voss's flagship floated in space, its engines dead and its weapons silent. Danny opened a channel to the crippled ship. "Admiral Voss, this battle is finished. Your fleet is disabled. You have no way to continue fighting." He paused. "But your crews are alive. Your ships can be repaired. This doesn't have to be an ending." The Admiral's face appeared on screen. He looked older than before, his eyes filled with shock and disbelief. "Why?" he asked. "You could have destroyed us. You could have killed every being in this fleet. Why did you spare us?" Danny thought about the question. He thought about all the reasons humanity had built the Reckless. He thought about fear and anger and the desire for revenge against a galaxy that wanted to wipe them out. But he also thought about something else. He thought about who humans wanted to be, not just who they were forced to become. "Because we could have destroyed you," Danny finally answered. "That's exactly why we didn't. We're not conquerors. We're not you. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live in it, free and equal, without someone else deciding we're too dangerous to exist." He leaned forward, his voice softening. "You can go home, Admiral. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them that humans aren't the monsters the Concordance warned you about. Tell them that there's another way to live, without the rules and the fear and the lies. Maybe nothing will change, but maybe something will." The channel closed. Around the Reckless, thousands of disabled ships drifted in the darkness. Their crews were alive. Their families would see them again. On the bridge, the human crew was silent. They had won the battle, but more importantly, they had won it the right way. Lisa Hartley broke the silence. "Captain, we're receiving messages from several ships in the fleet. They want to talk." "What kind of ships?" "They're not from the founding species. They're from the newer members, the ones who joined the Concordance in the last few thousand years." Lisa checked her readings. "They're asking if we meant what we said. About freedom. About equality." Danny smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. "Tell them yes. Tell them we're ready to listen." As the Reckless began to receive the first messages from species who had lived under Concordance rule for centuries, Danny looked out at the stars. The battle was over, but something new was beginning. Somewhere in the darkness of space, other beings were watching. Other minds were thinking. And slowly, one by one, they were starting to hope. 6 months had passed since the Battle of the Boundary Line, and the galaxy was no longer the same. The Concordance still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. 17 species had withdrawn from the Alliance, no longer willing to follow rules they now knew were lies. More were considering leaving every day. The founding species still held power, but that power was shrinking, and everyone could feel it dot in its place. Something new was growing. The new coalition, they called it. A gathering of species who wanted something different from the old way. Humans were at the center, not because they had conquered anyone, but because they had offered something the Concordance never did: genuine partnership, equal standing, the right to grow and change without fear. Commodore Danny Vance stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, humanity's first diplomatic outpost among the stars. Through the wide windows, he could see ships from a dozen different species coming and going. Some were trading. Some were sharing technology. Some were just talking, learning about each other after thousands of years of living under the same rules, but never truly connecting. It's beautiful, isn't it? Danny turned to see Dr. Megan Price standing beside him. She had come up from Earth a month ago, bringing teams of scientists ready to share the forbidden knowledge with anyone who wanted it. It's different, Danny said. 6 months ago, we were alone. Now look at us. Megan nodded. The Voss Coalition alone has 15 species. They're already building their own ships using our designs. Well, modified versions. Most of them don't want weapons quite as powerful as the Reckless. She smiled. They say it makes them nervous. Smart beings. Danny laughed softly. Sometimes it makes me nervous too. They watched in comfortable silence as a small cargo ship from a species called the Talari docked at the station. The Talari had been among the first to contact humanity after the battle. Their homeworld had been under Concordance protection for 800 years, which meant they paid tribute and followed orders and were never allowed to develop technology beyond a certain level. Now they were learning to build faster-than-light engines for the first time. Danny. The voice came from behind them. Lisa Hartley walked across the observation deck, a tablet in her hands and a worried look on her face. We just received a message from the Concordance capital. It's from the Arbiter. Danny's expression grew serious. What does it say? Lisa handed him the tablet. I think you should read it yourself. The message was short. Danny read it twice, then a third time, making sure he understood every word. Human leaders, it began. You believe you have won. You believe you have broken our power and freed the galaxy from our rules. But you understand nothing. The rules were not created to protect us. They were created to protect everyone. There are things in the darkness between the stars, things older than our civilization, older than life itself. For 12,000 years, the Concordance has kept them sleeping. Our rules, our restrictions, our careful management of technology and power, all of it was designed to avoid attracting their attention. By shattering our order, you may have awakened something that cannot be put back to sleep. When it comes, and it will come, you will learn why we did what we did. And you will wish you had listened. Danny lowered the tablet. His face was calm, but his mind was racing. Do you believe it? Megan asked quietly. I don't know, Danny admitted. It could be true, or it could be one last attempt to scare us back into line. The Concordance has been lying for 12,000 years. Why would they start telling the truth now? Lisa crossed her arms. But what if they're not lying? What if there really is something out there? The question hung in the air between them. Danny looked out at the stars again. They seemed different now, not just points of light, but potential hiding places for something ancient and terrible. Then he thought about something Admiral Lawson had said years ago, when the Reckless was still just a dream. Fear is a prison, Danny said slowly. The Concordance built a galaxy based on fear. Fear of the strong. Fear of the different. Fear of the unknown. They told themselves they were keeping everyone safe. But really, they were just keeping everyone controlled. He turned to face Lisa and Megan. If there's something out there in the darkness, hiding is not going to save us. The Concordance tried hiding for 12,000 years, and all they did was make the galaxy weak. They crushed any species that might have helped them fight. They destroyed technology that might have defended them. They spent so much time being afraid that they forgot how to be brave. Danny straightened his shoulders. We're not going to make that mistake. If something is coming, we'll face it. Not alone, but together. Every species that wants to stand with us, every world that believes in something better than the old way. We'll build more ships. We'll share more knowledge. We'll make the galaxy strong, not by forcing everyone to obey our rules, but by helping everyone reach their full potential. Megan smiled. You sound like you're making a speech. Maybe I am. Danny smiled back. Someone should probably write this down. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Kate Sullivan stood before the assembly of the new coalition. Representatives from 23 species filled the chamber, watching as she explained what the Arbiter's message had said. There was fear in the room. She could see it in alien eyes and strange faces. The idea of an ancient threat, sleeping in the darkness, was terrifying to beings who had only just learned that the galaxy was bigger than they thought. But there was something else, too. Something that looked like determination. I won't lie to you, Kate said. We don't know what's out there. We don't know if the Arbiter was telling the truth or trying to manipulate us. We don't know what we might be facing. She paused, looking around the chamber. But I know this. For 12,000 years, the Concordants told you to be afraid. They told you to be small. They told you that following their rules was the only way to survive. And what did that get you? Slavery, control, the slow death of everything that made your species unique. Her voice grew stronger. Humanity offers you something different. Not safety, because safety is an illusion. Not certainty, because no one can promise that. What we offer is a chance to grow. A chance to learn. A chance to face whatever comes next together as equals. She stepped forward. If there is something in the darkness, we will meet it. Not cowering behind rules designed to keep us weak, but standing strong with weapons we built and allies we earned. We will show it that this galaxy has changed. We will show it that fear is no longer the law. Kate raised her hand in the human gesture of solidarity that had become the symbol of the new coalition. Together, we are more than we ever were alone. Together, there is nothing we cannot face. Together, we are the future. One by one, the representatives raised their own hands, their own limbs, their own appendages. Different shapes, different species, but all reaching toward the same gold dot in orbit above the station. The USS Reckless turned toward the edge of known space. Behind it came a fleet of human and allied vessels, ships from a dozen worlds, crewed by beings who had never worked together before the old order fell. On the bridge, Commodore Danny Vance looked at the stars ahead. They were no longer points of light. They were challenges, questions, adventures waiting to happen. Course laid in, Tony Morales reported. We're ready to go. Danny nodded. He thought about everything that had brought them to this moment. The lies they had uncovered. The rules they had broken. The battles they had fought and the lives they had spared. He thought about the future. Uncertain and dangerous and full of possibility. And he gave the order that would carry them forward into that future. Let's go see what's out there. The fleet moved as one, leaving the familiar stars behind and heading toward the unknown. Whatever waited for them in the darkness, they would face it together, because that was what humans did. They asked questions no one else would ask. They broke rules no one else would break. They faced dangers no one else would face, and they never, ever gave up. The stars stretched on forever, and humanity sailed among them, no longer alone, no longer afraid, no longer bound by rules written by those who feared the future. The old galaxy was gone. A new one was being born, and it belonged to everyone brave enough to reach for it.